Wednesday, 8th October, 1902. No reward by the Cambridge city government since the murder was committed in Somerville. Police seeking a man whose name is not given out. Weapons with which Jack the Slugger has murderously assaulted women. 1. Broken furnace wrench with which Agnes E. McPhee was killed. 2. A pony axe used in the assault on Katie McConnell, the first Cambridge victim. 3. Angle iron used on Ella Murphy, the third Cambridge victim, July 27th. 4. An iron bolt with which Sigra Gustafsson, the second victim, was struck, July 17. The weapon in the hands of the Somerville police, which was used by the assailant of Agnes McPhee on Chester Street, West Somerville last Friday, with fatal results, is an ugly-looking piece of iron, which might easily be employed to fell an ox or a horse. It is in the possession of Chief Parkhurst, who is anxious to exhibit it to anyone who may be able to either to identify it or to afford some information as to its past ownership. The hunt for the murderer of Miss McPhee is such a blind one, with no clue upon which to work, saving the weapon left by the assailant, that Chief Parkhurst freely avails himself of any agency at hand to develop clues. He believes it barely possible that if a description of the weapon is spread broadcast, someone who might in the past have owned it may come forward in the interests of justice and inform him as to what disposition was made of it. With such information to work on, the police might be able to trace it to a final ownership. At present, the weapon is wrapped in paper and is in the chief's desk. It was either used as a furnace shaker or in some passenger car before the coaches on the steam railroads were equipped with steam heating appliances. It is rusty and of apparent great age. The rust is obliterated on one end by a dark blood stain caused by its impact with the dead girl's head when her brutal murderer dealt 4 savage blows, almost any one of which, according to the medical examiners Swan and Durrell, who performed the autopsy Monday afternoon, was sufficient to cause concussion of the brain and a fractured skull. 11 inches long, 3 3/4 pounds. It is 11 inches in length and weighs 3 3/4 pounds. It was originally fitted with a T-handle, but each end of the T is broken off almost to the body of the iron. With the T-ends broken off, a piece of iron is left that is practically straight, bulging at the end, which encloses the orifice which fits either the grate of a furnace or of a car stove, whichever the shaker originally was intended to fit. On one side is the number 16, and on the other 20, indicating the size and style of a grate of some particular make of furnace or stove. Chief Parkhurst believes that it has not been in use in the past few years, and that it might have been taken from some junk heap. If that is true, it might possibly have been taken from the iron heap of some foundry by some worker at one of those places or by someone familiar with such premises. The energies of the police who are working on the case are bent toward a canvass of some foundries in Somerville and Cambridge. The other weapons used. A pony axe, as it is known in the trade, was the weapon used on Miss Katie McConnell when she was assaulted by Jack the Slugger at the corner of Walker and Garden Streets, Cambridge, at 10:30 the night of June 17th. Miss McConnell was his first victim. The axe is given its name from the fact that it differs from a hatchet in the shape of the metal portion, which is similar to a woodsman axe, only it is smaller. There are 2 particular features about this weapon that may now lead to its owner, and thus indicate if it was stolen, who had access to, where it was kept, and the neighborhood from which it was taken. The peculiarities are that the metal portion was fitted on the handle bottom side up, and that a wire nail is driven in lengthwise of the wood to spread the handle and act as a key in keeping the handle and axe head together. The handle is 16 inches long. The length of the metal from head to blade is exactly 6 inches, and from the bottom of the eye, where the handle enters, to to the top about 4 inches. The whole weighs 4 pounds. From the appearance of the weapon, it had been in constant use in someone's cellar, for the blade edge is somewhat nicked. The axe head bears the imprint in the steel of the Underhill Edge Tool Company, Nashua, New Hampshire, and also the figure 2. The second Cambridge victim was Miss Sigra Gustafsson, a Swedish girl who lives at 121 Magazine Street, Cambridgeport. She was assaulted at 9:30 the night of July 17th at the corner of Newton and Chester Streets, Cambridgeport, a different section of the city from that in which the previous and subsequent assaults have taken place. The weapon this time was a long, round iron bolt with square head and threads for a nut at the other extremity. It had evidently been taken from a car truck, for a small piece of waste still hangs to the threads. It is 14 inches long and is slightly bent in the center, 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and the head is 1 inch square. It weighs about 3/4 of a pound. Ella Murphy was assaulted July 27th at 9:36 p.m. on Craigie Street, near the corner of Berkeley, Cambridge. She was terribly beaten with a murderous V-shaped piece of angle iron, 12.5 inches long and weighing 2.5 pounds. The thickness of this iron was 1/4 of an inch. From the point of the V to either edge outside is 1.5 inches. That is, if the iron were hammered out flat, it would be 3 inches wide. Through one of the V-shaped sides, a hole was drilled for a screw. One end of the iron had a regular finished edge, while the other was ragged, as though roughly cut from a cold chisel and then bent apart from another portion of metal. In each case, the weapon was found lying beside the victim. No reward by Cambridge. The Cambridge city government is prevented by statute from offering a reward for information which may lead to the identification of the murderer of Miss Agnes E. McPhee. Last night at the meeting of the City Council, several members of the Common Council talked the matter over prior to the calling of the session. There was an intense desire to do something of that nature among members of the lower branch. It was then learned that such action would be illegal, according to the statutes on the part of Cambridge, because the murder was committed 12 feet beyond the Cambridge line in Somerville. The police have learned but little that will aid them in the detection of Miss McPhee's assailant. The police officials in both cities are following and running down every clue that presents itself. It is known that the police are looking for one man whose identity they refuse to give out. Whether they expect to connect him with the crime, they decline to say, but they propose at least to interview him.